Here we go.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I am Iron Man. The suit and I are one.
In brightest day,
in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight.
I'm Batman.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
Hulk. Smash.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for checking out Court of Geeks. I'm Billy Patterson.
I'm John McCracken.
And if you're new to the show, which you are, because it's a new show, John and I are comic book geeks. We go every week. We read, debate, discuss.
Yes.
And these are lunchtime conversations that we're now letting you in on. You get to hear all about the news in the comic book world and our thoughts, reviews on what's coming out, what grinds our gears.
We used to work together so we could talk about this every day. Now we don't. So we're getting it all out for everyone to hear.
So now you can be like, what were they talking about? Now you know. This is the insight into our world. You have been inducted into the Court of Geeks.
Yep.
So today, what's going on in the news of the comic book world?
We're going to have two kind of more movie TV related news items today. The first one being that Mark Webb and Andrew Garfield are signed on for Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No!
Your favorite movie.
No, okay, first of all, John knows this, and anybody who knows me knows this. I am so apologetic when it comes to comic book movies. I will tolerate almost anything, but Amazing Spider-Man, I just could not get into.
It was the one thing that I liked more than you, for once.
And that never happens.
And I still didn't like it. I have a lot of problems with it. I think they did the wrong approach. I think pouty, too cool for school Peter Parker is not Peter Parker.
I mean, just even his, motives were kind of all wrong.
I feel like Andrew Garfield is a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
Social Network, he's amazing, and he's been amazing in a lot of things. I think his director did not save him from himself. Because he had these weird mannerisms that you could just be like, you know what, maybe don't nod your head back and forth.
Like a bobblehead?
Yeah. Maybe calm down a little bit. But, I thought it was decent, but not great. And hopefully now they can get away from the major problem, which was just seeing the stupid origin story.
Again!
Not to say the origin story is stupid, but just to have it all over again. It wasn't different enough to really...
No, I mean, even the main titles, the score kind of sounded like exactly the same. I was like, I've seen this.
It was just a rehash. And the whole villain felt like secondary.
Oh, yeah. And the thing that really bothered me was that they had been pushing this as the untold story. And it's like, all right, if you're going to screw with this, give me something completely new. And then I'm assuming Sony got cold feet and just cut everything out.
There's been tons of articles. I believe there was one on Badass Digest that really explained what had been seen in advertisements and the press had seen stuff and then didn't make it to the final cut. So obviously things were screwy with that movie. So hopefully this one they won't have those conditions, but there's rumors about Green Goblin and I'm like, great, so we get to see another thing we've already seen?
I mean, I'm never going to get my Mysterio movie, am I?
No.
It's just not going to happen.
God, no.
You don't have to say it like that.
It'll never happen, I'm sorry. I mean, Mysterio is cool, but I just can't see them being able to sell that, especially not in this more realistic, gritty world that they're going for.
I don't like the realistic, gritty. I'm over it. I like more... I mean, I know Avengers was coming from a more realistic, because Iron Man was realistic, but even that is more bubblegum.
Yeah, it was more colorful, it owned up to being a comic book movie.
And I don't see why the others can't do that.
Yeah. Nolan's ashamed. He just also happens to be a great filmmaker, so he could pull it off. I don't think Mark Webb is that filmmaker. So, we'll get another Amazing Spider-Man with...
I'll see it. I mean, I'm going to see it. We have to see it, but I'm going in already in a bad mood.
Yeah.
You have to work to get me... to be on your side. As opposed to this time, I went in all right, let's do this. And then I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. So yes, that's happening. And also this week, they revealed some of the characters for the new S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Now, you probably know this. I don't know if you guys know, but Joss Whedon, he is in charge of this, or
He's the executive producer.
So he's tying now this show into the movie universe that we know.
They all sound very Joss Whedon-y. Strong women who are funny and physical specimen, super strong guys who have a temper, and I don't know. I mean, all you have to do is tell me Joss Whedon's doing a S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, and I'm excited.
See, I never got into any of Joss Whedon's shows,
No.
but when I saw Avengers, obviously I was like, oh, I like his style.
Right.
So,
yeah, he's the best. He's created some of the best hours of TV of all time.
So I mean, just from the rundown of the characters list, can you kind of see where this show might?
I mean, it's cool that they're all new characters, because I just think using existing ones would have made it way too complicated.
Right.
And I'm sure existing ones will pop in and out, but I think if you had like Maria Hill as the star of the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, it would just get a little complicated because she's in Iron Man 3. I'm sure she'll be in S.H.I.E.L.D. 2.
Right.
So.
Oh, wait, Maria Hill's in Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know that Black Widow's going to be in Captain America.
Yes, which I've been waiting for them to say, because her and Bucky have some stuff in the comics.
Right.
And that's kind of been one of the more important parts of his whole story, and one of the better parts of his whole story is his relationship with her. So I'm excited that she'll be in it. Supposedly. I don't know. I worry about Scarlett Johansson.
Why?
Just because she's an in-demand actress, and it's like, it's hard to... I know she's signed for it, but you never know.
She's not the one that worries me. The one that worries me is, what's his face? Chris Evans. Every time I see an interview with him about Avengers...
He's done a lot of stuff in between.
He just doesn't seem like he's into it at all.
Well, he was terrified to sign on for the first one, because you have to sign a contract for like 9 movies, although I think he got his down to 6. But no, he's filming a lot of stuff. So I think he's into it now, or at least is like, well, I'm getting to do my other stuff too,
right.
My more independent stuff.
I mean, Chris Hemsworth seems like, I'll just do Thor. I'm good with that.
He's in Ron Howard's movie too.
Ron Howard's new movie.
It's like a NASCAR racing. It's a racing movie of some sort, maybe indie racing. It's like a biopic of some famous indie racer that I don't know. But so Chris Hemsworth is doing other stuff as well, and he may be in Robopocalypse.
Robopocalypse?
Steven Spielberg's new movie.
Oh, Steven, stop with the
All
robots.
Right. We don't need to go off on this whole tangent. But yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, not a lot of new information, but it shows that there's progress. And
I always thought that they were trying to get, what's that show, Castle, into the Marvel universe. Because they've always had...
Castle?
Yeah.
With Nathan Fillion?
Yeah.
I feel
Google it.
Okay, yeah.
Google
I don't know anything about this, so I don't watch that show.
Well, yeah. Most respecting people don't, because it's terrible. Sorry, Tina Charles.
You're going to get some bad emails.
Oh.
People love that show.
People love Nathan Fillion. I know. He's great.
He's awesome. I saw him at Comic-Con. He's huskier, shall I say, than he used to be.
Yeah, well...
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
And we got the New York Comic-Con's coming up, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of news
announcements
coming out of that.
I just read today that I must have missed this announcement, but I guess Scott Snyder said that he's doing, after his whole death of a family, that he wants to do a Riddler story arc, which Riddler is actually one of my all-time favorite villains. I just feel like they haven't really done anything.
I don't think I've ever read Riddler.
I mean, he got some crazy stuff pre-New 52.
Okay.
He had, like, cancer, and he was, like, a good guy detective for a while. It's one of those things where it's just, like, I don't feel like anybody really knows what to do with him exactly, because it's, like, he's a great villain, but his biggest weakness is that he just wants to tell everybody his plan.
Right.
Which is stupid. But
Well, that'll be cool. I mean, I'm interested in seeing whatever Scott Snyder wants to do with any of them.
I mean, if that Man of Steel line turns out to be true, Scott Snyder might be the first person who could make an interesting Superman comic book.
We'll see. Keep praying for that one.
Yeah. It's review time!
Alright, I think we have to start off with...
Oh, the big news of the day.
The big finale of Avengers vs. X-Men. Round 12.
Now, you are the big Marvel person, so all that I know is that this is not the culmination of just Avengers vs. X-Men, but this goes all the way back to, like, House of M.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because I got a sense of finality with this, but you must have gotten something bigger or different. Or...
I mean, yeah, it's the... we're going to get into spoilers here. But, yeah, it's the culmination of years of stuff. Because, you know, with House of M, the Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and then almost the entire mutant race was wiped out.
Right.
There was around 200 left. So that was a huge deal for a long time, and part of the reason why Cyclops was so militant in this whole storyline was because it was about the protection of his race, because there were only 200 of them. So, yeah, it's the end of a lot of stuff.
I just feel like for a casual fan of, like, I don't read any Avengers books, I don't read any X-Men books.
Right.
I feel like the X-Men were just pitiful this entire story. Like, even when you're supposed to, like, go against the Avengers for, like, that issue or two where it's, like, everything's going great, it's like, why would they stop this?
Right.
They're never, like, as bad as I feel like the X-Men were portrayed in this whole thing. I don't know. I just got a negative vibe from the X-Men from start to finish.
Wow. I mean, I guess I couldn't understand that. I mean, I know a lot of people hate Cyclops, but maybe because I've read so much X-Men, it's like I know why he was behaving the way he was behaving.
Right.
I reread the whole thing before I read the last chapter, and he does go from zero to crazy pretty quick.
Right.
But,
I mean, how much of that is the Phoenix Force
well, that
itself?
was I mean, just before even the whole Phoenix 5 thing happened, he was being a little nutty. But, I mean, it was all justifiable. I remember reading that first issue, like, oh, wow, he threw the gauntlet really quick. But, yeah, the whole Phoenix thing was good. I liked it. I liked that it inhabited him, and the only thing I had a problem with is that he seems like a psycho at the end. Yeah, it seems like
they're setting him up as, like, the new big Marvel villain, like,
right.
Doctor
like,
Doom-esque type.
His conversation with Captain America was very, I don't know, he just seemed like a villain. And yes, he did terrible things, but most of that was the Phoenix.
But has, like, other heroes done terrible things under the influence of something?
Well, we'll see how fast they backtrack this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's, like, in prison.
Yeah,
at the end of it. And he very much sounds like a villain. Like, oh, it was all worth it because there's more mutants now.
Right.
Which, I mean, makes sense for him to say, but I don't know. The thing that actually helped humanize him a bit was this last issue of Uncanny X-Men that came out this week as well. And just kind of went through his whole thought process and how he couldn't think during a lot of this and how he was, you know, as the Phoenix, he feels everything in the world, everything cosmically at once. And so he doesn't know what's real and what's not. And it just did a great job of kind of showing his, what it's like to be inhabited by the Phoenix and how confusing it is and how hard it is. So that actually did help Cyclops seem more human. But, I mean, you only get that if you read that as well as Avengers vs. X-Men.
Because to me, all I see is like, oh, he's just crazy. And it seems like even, you know, someone who... I used to watch the cartoon, but, like, if you just started watching X-Men with, like, the movies...
Right.
And then you move to, like, this big Avengers vs. X-Men thing, Cyclops has just been portrayed as a bitch for so long.
I hope they... Honestly, Cyclops needs a Mark Waid Daredevil style reinvention.
Right.
Because for so long in Daredevil, he was a miserable bastard. Everything that could possibly go wrong would go wrong. I stopped reading it because it was just like, this is so dark. And then I picked it back up with Mark Waid. And he did a great job of making him seem more human. And I think Cyclops needs that sort of reinvention.
Right.
Because I love Cyclops. He's a great character. And I understand why he feels the way he feels with everything that happened in House of M and Messiah Complex and Second Coming and yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, they've taken him as far as they can into, like, the evil
but then wouldn't you
direction.
think that maybe now this new direction of him being a mega super villain is kind of an interesting new...
No.
No?
No, he cannot be a villain.
Is that just fanboy, John?
That would be really hard to swallow. Really, really hard. Because everything he's always done, and even what he did here, was for what's best for mutants.
But see, that's kind of the best kind of villain. One that's completely justified in there.
Yeah. No, I can see them doing it, but I feel like he's been in some of the promotional art for something.
Yeah, give it till, like, November.
Yeah,
and then
they'll figure... I mean, he's definitely going to be screwed up from this, because he killed his father figure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for all intents and purposes, his father. He killed him.
Yeah.
So he's going to be screwed up. Alright, besides Cyclops, how did you feel about the arc as a whole?
I mean, it was, like I said before, I, as a casual person, I just never got into the X-Men. I always was like... I was on Cap's side, and I wanted the Avengers the whole time. And although I did
Which is funny, because when we were at WonderCon, this hadn't come out yet.
Right.
And so they were like, Avengers versus X-Men. Who wants, like, the X-Men? And everyone, like, screamed for the X-Men.
Right.
And the Avengers got, like...
And then the Avengers movie came out.
Well, no, I mean, I think the Avengers, from the beginning, like, you can tell it's gonna go the Avengers' way.
Yeah, it's gonna sway their way. And the only other thing that I thought was kind of a little ridiculous was Tony Stark's, like,
Faith.
we gotta have faith. It's like, alright.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to, like, negate that by being like, I'm a man of science, but
Right.
But still, yeah, I agree.
It was just like a little. I was like, too little, too late. Let's just get on with what's going down. And but I did like the setup for Uncanny Avengers, which I'm now. It's added to my pull list.
Right. Yeah, where it'll be mutants and
right.
Cap and whoever else. I forget the exact lineup. But yeah, as a whole, I liked it. Rereading the whole thing, they definitely treaded water a little bit towards the beginning. Because, like, once they get to the Phoenix 5, that's when it really kind of took off.
Right.
At first, it was just kind of, it was like, okay, so they fight. What is going to happen here?
Right. Definitely more successful than, like, Fear itself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of crossover events. Usually when I see them coming up, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Because Fear itself was horrible. Civil War was good.
Yeah, that was the last kind of big one that I was...
But, yeah, usually crossovers are very scary and very terrible. So I'm happy that this not only wasn't terrible, but was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 12 issues was too long, but what are you going to do? I thought it was a pretty good story arc. And there's a lot to come from what happened.
One of my favorite things from the Avengers vs. X-Men, which actually leads me to my pick of the week. I absolutely, it's so dumb, but I adore the Avengers vs. X-Men Versus series. And this one, they're like, alright, we're just going balls to the wall. There's 9 quote-unquote fights, but a lot of these are just, like, ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's like Toad versus Jarvis, and it's like Havoc versus Captain America, and it's just like, they do these little, like, fun facts that are just like, Captain America, blah, blah, blah. And these are just like, just like stupid little, like, jokes. Like, do you really think that Captain America could take on Havoc? It's not going to happen. Right. I mean, these are just, like, all jokes. There's a Cyclops versus Captain America where they show up on the Utopia and they just have like a verbal war of words where it's just like inside jokes making fun of Cyclops and his continuity and his history, and then Cyclops just gets really upset and runs off and Cap wins. It's just dumb. It's dumb fun. It's like, it's ridiculous. You don't have to have read anything else. If you've never picked up an issue of Avengers vs. X-Men, that goes with all of them. These are all just fights. If you've ever just want to be like, who would win between Iron Man versus Magneto? Like, you know, you're talking with your friends in 4th grade. Like, I mean, that's what this is. This is like a 4th grade comic book, like a 7-year-old's dream, and that's probably why it's my pick of the week.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because it fits right into my wheelhouse.
All right. So yeah, Avengers vs. X-Men, good. The whole arc was good. Not, like, amazing, but it certainly didn't, like, ruin anything. And I'm excited to see what happens from here. There was some cool thematic stuff about cycles and cyclical and, you know, Jean and him and all that. So, yeah, good stuff.
So you talked a little bit about Daredevil.
Yes.
Let's talk about the limited series that started today, Daredevil End of Days.
End of Days by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack. I believe this was announced in 2007.
Wow, that is a long gap.
And then just kept getting pushed for... I mean, Bendis is incredibly busy, has tons of books. So it kept getting pushed, and now it's finally here. And when I was talking earlier about when Daredevil was really depressing and stuff, this kind of harkens back to those days, because that's when Brian Michael Bendis was the writer on it. And his stuff is fantastic. Like, I loved his Daredevil run, but after he was done with it, people just kept running with the depressing stuff. But I really enjoyed End of Days. It reminded me of when I first really got into Daredevil with Bendis' run.
And the thing that I like, again, spoiler alert, I kind of had a stroke there. Spoiler alert. Is that it's almost like I don't want to say a whodunit, but it's like it starts with his death.
Yeah,
and this is kind of going back, like, how did this happen? What has been going on? Which I really enjoyed. Yeah,
and he has his final word, Mapone,
which
we don't know what that means, but I like that they actually threw in the
Citizen Kane
reference, because I was like, man, this is like Rosebud. But yeah, it's really good. It ends with a cliffhanger of sorts, where you're like, who is this person?
I will have to say, and this is probably because I'm kind of dumb sometimes and I don't pay attention.
Right.
I started reading, and then all of a sudden, there's a story with Captain America and Iron Man and Susan G. Komen for the cure of cancer. And I was just like, and I didn't realize that this was an ad.
Yes.
And I just was like, this is so out of left field, because it's
in a couple of the books. So.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first one that I read today.
They've done that a bunch recently. They did one with like an Allstate thing recently.
Oh, that's right.
Now I'm like on the lookout when I'm like, why did the art get really crappy all of a sudden? And I'm like, oh, it's an ad.
Not that I'm against breast cancer research. I'm just saying, I was like, this seems really out of left field for this title. But I really, really enjoyed it. Especially because my only really knowledge of Daredevil has been Mark Waid's kind of reinvention of him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this very much harkens back to those old days, and it's kind of an alternate universe thing where, you know, he dies and he had before killed the Kingpin,
which was I loved that panel.
Yeah,
that last panel where he's just like, "What was I supposed to do?" You know?
And I mean, it's drawn by Klaus Janson, who did the Daredevil stuff with Frank Miller, of course. So yeah, this is my pick of the week. It's good to have alongside the Daredevil ongoing series now, because then you have the kind of different approaches.
Right.
Because I think, you know, if this had come out right when we were in the middle of the dark and depressing Daredevil days, it would have been like, no, this is just another dark and depressing Daredevil thing.
Right.
But it's cool to see them do these miniseries where it's a different approach.
Yeah.
And not just like, this is the same thing that you see, just someone else doing it.
Right.
So I really enjoyed it a lot. All right, let's move on to Amazing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
We talked in our little test podcast about how we did not enjoy the Alpha storyline. So this week starts a new storyline, a Hobgoblin storyline.
I gotta tell you, there were things that I liked a lot, but overall I just couldn't. I'm not digging the Hobgoblin kind of identity crisis. I did like, though, that his spider sense was just out of control.
Yeah, that was the stuff I really liked about this issue was, they're trying to screw with Peter's spidey sense, and at first they make it too good.
Right.
So he's just dodging every blow that comes his way, and then they start screwing with it where he's literally everything that could possibly be the tiniest bit of a threat, including just a dirty handrail.
Paper cuts,
starts going nuts. And yeah, I agree. I really like that stuff. Madam Web, I've never enjoyed. I don't get her. I don't know. I just always have had a problem with those soothsayer characters in general, and any film, TV, I could see the future. That just always makes
I did like that double-page spread, though, where we got to see some hints of what this Marvel Now, we got to see, the Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
And we got to
Ant-Man.
see Ant-Man, and, just some little,
hints.
Teasers of, what's going to be happening coming up. But, I mean, that's...
And some stuff from the past.
Yeah, there's definitely,
So
there's Elektra there.
Yeah, I see Daredevil and Captain America, which is, I think, the second issue of Daredevil.
And you see the new, or not the new X-Men, but the X-Men time traveler from the...
Yeah. So I liked it. Didn't love it. I don't know. That's kind of how I've been feeling about Amazing Spider-Man for a while now.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it, don't love it. Maybe it's because he has to put out so many issues. I don't know.
The thing is, I really loved that Spider-Man,
Yeah.
And it's kind of disappointing that it was a limited series in the sense that, it's never really going to be brought up.
Right. And Dan Slott, he writes very much like a modern Silver Age in that, it still has kind of a cheesiness to it. It has, a kind of innocence to it, but it's a little more modern and more updated. But sometimes, the silliness or, the cheesiness is a little overbearing. Not that there was much of that in this, but I don't know. I like Dan Slott's writing, but sometimes I can just be like, this is...
Just a little much?
This is a little much, yeah. But, better than Alpha.
Yeah, I'll take this over Alpha.
Yeah. So we'll see where this one goes. I mean, this is all leading up to the end of the whole
Spider-Man
run. Yeah. The Amazing Spider-Man. So we'll see. If some of the rumors I heard are true, I'm going to shoot someone. But we won't talk about that just yet.
We'll cross our fingers and hope for the best. Let's shift gears to Animal Man, to some new 52.
Yeah.
Now we get to pick up on the Rot World story. And I actually enjoyed both this and Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really like seeing kind of how, the Rot just destroyed the world as we knew it. At the Justice League, any of those guys, they just couldn't couldn't handle it. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I thought it was good. I like Swamp Thing just the tiniest bit better. Since they're both kind of doing the same thing, it only makes sense to talk about them as well.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of run parallel to each other.
Right. But yeah, I liked it. I wasn't super into it, but I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited we're back just to the storyline after the 0 issues.
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited. It's cool. It ends with a nice little cliffhanger that makes me want to keep reading. Shepherd guy who had been an Animal Man a bit before. This is weird goat man.
You know, the thing is that I really liked, and I hope that they can stick with it, is in both books they were adamant this is not a parallel universe. This is not an alternate reality. This is now. This has happened.
Right.
You can't do anything.
Which is cool, but makes me worry about how they're going to get out of this.
It's just I feel like they've started this story with the stakes so high.
Yeah.
That
I don't know how they.
But it's exciting.
Yeah, it is cool. It's really cool. Swamp Thing I liked a lot as well. Although I think next month is a freaking annual. Which
But
is
see, their annuals have been pretty good about actually tying in.
Yeah, I mean, it says secrets revealed in Swamp Thing Annual #1. I don't know. Just because of the whole Zero issue, it kind of threw everything off a bit, so I would rather just keep going with Rotwell, because they've been building to this since the beginning.
Since issue #1.
Yeah, and this is number 13. So yeah, Swamp Thing I liked. It's cool to see him working with Poison Ivy, and
Yeah, I mean, it was such a cool choice just because it was so logical, but, you know.
And you get to see him kick ass a little bit, which he hasn't done a ton of as of yet. But yeah, as always, it looks great. I love the layouts and the way they use kind of almost like, it looks like, you know, you're looking at a leaf under a microscope, the way some of these layouts are.
I mean, for people like me that can get really, you know, confusing, because I'm like, wait, which panel am I supposed to read first?
Right.
But, no, you know, I'm at that point where just, like, I feel like Scott Snyder's just, like, hit his peak, and I feel like he's not doing much, if anything, wrong. And Jeff Lemire has kind of hit it out of the park, too.
Yeah, they're both great writers. I don't know. They're kind of, you know, they're #1 of this big saga. And like I said, I think far, I think these first chapters are good, but because, like you said, because they've raised the stakes so much, I'm like, well, how are they gonna? Yeah, I don't know. Just sometimes when they do that, then they have to do some weird mumbo jumbo to get their way out of it. But I can't judge these issues on that, and these issues are pretty damn fun.
Action Comics with Superman. You know what? This was like a one-shot, and this is maybe the first issue of Action Comics that I truly, truly enjoyed in a long time.
Yeah. I was trying to think about, like, what... Because I really loved the first, like, 2 or 3...
Right.
Or even 4. I really loved those. And then, he didn't get as weird as he can get, Morrison, but he got plenty weird where I was like, wait, what's happening here?
Bottle cities and weird.
And that was fine, but just none of it was like as good as I thought his start of Action was.
Right.
And this one was a cool little one-shot little Halloween story.
Ghosts in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
But you know what the thing is, as much as I love the actual story of, you know, kind of being trapped in that Phantom Zone, I loved the backup. It was just like 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah, it was great.
But damn if that didn't get to me.
Yeah,
especially that very last panel. I was like, oh, don't let him see you cry, old man. With Crypto, it's basically a couple pages just talking about how Crypto, you know, Superdog has just been there with him in spirit this whole time.
Yeah, that little backup definitely accentuated the main story and made it even better and made it. Yeah, it was genuinely kind of moving.
Yeah,
it was nice. I liked it. He got a little weird towards the middle where I was like, what? But yeah, it was a fun little story, and I like the art by Travel Foreman, who used to do Animal Man all the time. Now does not. So yeah, Action was better than I thought it has been recently.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny because we've been talking recently about, like, God, just nobody knows how to do a good Superman story. But I mean, as far as like a one-shot, it's not great, but it's a solid Superman story.
Yeah.
Get on this track, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Grant Morrison. Even I don't read Superman because
it's
you're
terrible.
the Superman person and you don't like it, then I'm definitely not going to like it. But it's like, obviously, even when he gets weird, it's not boring, and it's not the same old thing.
Right.
And I really loved the way it started, the whole Action Comics thing started. That was like one of my favorites at first, and it's gone down a little bit, but this issue was good, and I'm excited to see how he finishes his run on it.
Let's pass it off to you. What is something that you've picked up this week that I don't read?
Uncanny X-Force number 32. We're still dealing with the Final Execution saga, which has been great. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. I don't even know what... This is chapter 8 of the Final Execution saga.
In comics, that's a lifetime.
That's a long time. But it's kind of gone all over the place. It started in our timeline and then went to the future and then has now come back. But this is Rick Remender's final saga on Uncanny X-Force since it relaunched with him, and he's been so great. And he had the Dark Angel saga, which was fantastic. And then he had an Elseworlds or Otherworlds saga thing that was a little weird and it ended well, but I was starting to worry that maybe he was slipping a little bit, or the book was going to slip after such a... Because I really think the Dark Angel saga is going to be like an iconic story for years. So there was a little bit of a slip, but the Final Execution saga keeps getting more and more interesting. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I don't want to get too into it because there's so much, like plot-wise, because there's so much plot to go through.
Right.
But there is a character makes a very interesting decision at the end, and we'll see where that goes.
I picked up the newest issue of Detective Comics because this is the new creative team.
Right.
Tony Daniels is no longer writing for it.
Have you been reading it this whole time?
I have been reading it this whole time.
Because I picked up Detective Comics at first when the whole relaunch happened, and I lasted maybe 5 issues before I was like, this is really boring.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing with the new creative team with this issue, it's first of all, it's a Penguin story. Right. And I feel like Penguin it's interesting to me because his motives are very different from all of the other villains, I feel like, because he's the only one that wants people to love him. Right. And that's kind of what this story is about. Okay. But the thing that I really liked about this issue is that it was very much about Batman being a detective. Right. He's got to figure out why, these certain alarms are going off, and he's figuring out, like, oh, they're trying to keep me distracted from something else. What are they trying to keep me distracted from? Basically, it's Penguin just wants to get rid of Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne is such a philanthropist. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, nope, everyone fears me. Everybody respects me, but nobody loves me. Right. So, I mean, is it gold? No. Is it better than Tony Daniels' stuff? Way, way better. Okay. So I feel like he's just kind of now starting. I feel like once he gets into a groove, maybe the next arc or so, I mean, this will kind of be back on track where it should be, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Okay, good. Yeah, because that first arc was terrible. Yeah, the first 3 arcs were terrible. I only last one. I also picked up Fatale number 8. Which I used to read Fatale. Yeah. Just kind of got lost in my shuffle. I adore Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I love all their collaborations. Fatale has not been up there with Criminal and Incognito and Sleeper and all their other really, really great runs. I don't know why. Maybe because I read a lot of those ones in trades before I got back into monthly comics. And maybe I just read too much. But a lot of the times, halfway through the issue, I'm still trying to play catch-up. Like, wait, what happened again? What's going on? And I actually kind of like this new arc, which is the 3rd issue of the new arc, a little more than the first arc. But it's just not, like, blowing me away like I'm used to Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips stuff doing. Right. And maybe it's me. Maybe in trade form it's better. There's like certain TV shows that are better if you watch the season all at once. Yeah. Maybe this is just one of those. I'm guessing because I've loved all their stuff that I've read in trade. But yeah, maybe I just need to kind of save. I do that with a couple other things. Like The Unwritten is one that I kind of wait for an arc to finish and then I'll read it, the whole thing. Right. Maybe that's what I need to do with these, because I love the covers and they have like supplemental essays and stuff that are really cool. So I will still pick it up, but maybe after this arc I'll give it a little break and still get it and then just kind of read an arc as a whole. Right. Sounds solid. Yep. Green Lantern number 13. This is the start of a really big storyline for the Green Lanterns. It's going to cross over into all the books. New Guardians, Green Lantern Corps, Red Guardians, or Red Lanterns, whatever the F they call themselves. But basically, the Green Lanterns were not the first heroes. It was like robots, and then they're like, oh, this doesn't work, we need people, so then they have the Green Lanterns. Now the Guardians are saying, this isn't working, and they're trying to get rid of all the Green Lanterns and start the third army. So all the Green Lanterns are pretty much being hunted. We have a new Earth Green Lantern, which was Simon Boz, who was a car thief.
Right.
And they did show his family, how they've been kind of, there's prejudice against them because they are Arab Americans, and she's just like, you're not making this any better. Like,
right.
There was just a lot of good stuff in this. I mean, obviously, as an issue by itself, it's just mainly setting the table for this huge event of the Guardians kind of taking over the galaxy. But, I mean, as far as introducing a new character, it's really been solid. The Justice League has shown up. They think that he's stolen Hal's ring and that Hal is dead, and they are pissed. And he doesn't even know what's going on, so it's setting up some good stuff.
How did he get the ring?
Because Hal and Sinestro in the annual were kind of sucked into this, like, black hole of space. So everyone thinks that they're dead.
Oh, okay.
And, the ring goes for someone new.
Yeah.
So, I'm really excited for this event. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to get all the ancillary titles to...
Oh, God.
It's another one of those. But, you know what? I've liked all the Green Lantern stuff thus far. So.
That's what I worry, actually, because they had big ads for Death in the Family.
Right.
And it was like, you have to pick
And
up
it was like everybody.
every single one of these issues. And as far as Bat books go, I read Batman and I read Batwoman. Batwoman never crosses over with
anything.
Besides Wonder Woman right now. But, so yeah, all I read is Batman. Though that's all I read for Night of the Owls, and I didn't feel like I really missed out on it.
I feel like the only one that you probably missed out on was Nightwing, because Nightwing played a huge part in
That's
that.
what you kept saying.
Well,
I mean, yeah, even Batman ended talking about his ties to the court and yada, yada, yada. So, I don't know.
We'll see. And worst case scenario, if you miss anything, you'll
have read
everything.
All right,
time for new number ones. We each picked up a number one this week. John, you picked up...
Minimum Carnage.
Minimum Carnage, because Maximum Carnage was such a huge hit.
Yeah. I will not be picking up Minimum Carnage anymore. That's the real... it's a one-shot, but it leads into an event that I'm just like, nope.
Not happening.
It crosses over with Venom and Scarlet Spider, which I read the first, 4 issues, I believe, of Scarlet Spider. And they were good, but they just weren't so amazing that I was like, I need to spend my money on this.
Right.
But Minimum Carnage is really... It's about how Carnage gets broken out of prison by tiny people. I don't know who... They're like aliens or something. They've made some sort of bargain. They don't make it clear with what this bargain is in this one shot, but they made some sort of bargain with Carnage that they'll take him to their world or something where he can murder more people because he's a serial killer.
Right.
But yeah, this just wasn't very good. It just was. It's like they burned through so much plot in this one shot, and it's like you never get your bearings, and you're just on to the next thing. And
right.
I don't know. Some of the art, I actually thought this was one of the ads.
Oh yeah.
I'm showing him a page from the book, and I really thought it was, like we were saying earlier, some of those ads, which are always bad artwork because they're not going to get some great person to draw an ad for them. And I thought some of this was ads because it was just such bad artwork and just looks so thrown together. So yeah, Minimum Carnage, not for me. I can't imagine anyone was real thrilled with this.
Well, even when they announced it at WonderCon, the reaction was tepid at best.
Yeah, everyone was kind of like,
alright.
Okay.
I picked up a new series called Non-Human. It's just a quick little 4-issue...
It's an Image?
It's an Image comic.
Image is launching a lot recently.
A very, very weird premise. I've heard people say it's like Blade Runner meets, Small Soldiers or Toy Story. Basically, in the future, in Los Angeles, it's teenagers. There's a virus that gets out, and teenagers can make, toys come to life with their minds. Mm-hmm. So they have to take pills that keeps them from using their imagination. There's no TV, no books, no internet, nothing, because you can't let people... bring these things to life. They're called non-humans. And
they're always, homicidal?
No, they're not. They're really not. I mean, they're just like, they just don't want a new race of people. The thing about this book is that a lot of this exposition doesn't come, it comes out very slowly because everybody knows what happened already. So you kind of just have to figure it out as,
Yeah, I mean, I usually like that kind of approach where it's not just like, hey, let me tell you everything right at the top.
Right. I just did think it was interesting that in interviews for this, what's his name? Glenn Brunswick has been doing interviews about it, and he'll lay out, like, this is exactly what happened, this is what it's about. But in the book, I was like, wait, let me refer to that interview. It's very interesting. It's very, very dark, but at the same time, there's something kind of, like, twisted about it that I kind of like. It's an interesting concept. I would have loved to have been there when they came up with this.
Right.
And it takes place in Los Angeles, and it was really weird because they show a war-torn, kind of in the future, Hollywood and Highland, which is where I work on Hollywood and Highland. So I'm like, oh, this is very bizarre. But it's like, a cop and his son is dating a non-human. But it's like they don't want the teenagers to, like, because this was like an underwear, like, model, and someone like wished her to life, and now he's dating her, and they have a kid, which is basically the way they had a kid was she took him off his pills, and they had like an action figure come to life, and now it's like their son. Very bizarre, but you know what? I'm into it. It's only 4 issues.
So I'm gonna keep picking it up.
I'm gonna pick it up. I'm just gonna see this through, unless it does something to completely turn me off.
Right.
I think it's not a bad little read.
You were more successful with number 1s than I was this week.
Well, you knew you didn't want to pick up Minimum Carnage.
No,
so.
I know. It's true.
We did it all for you.
Yes. To tell you to stay away from Minimum Carnage.
So that is this week in news and reviews. Next week we've got...
Oh, wait. We saw Batman Live.
Oh, that's right. Batman. It's not a musical, but it's like a stage show.
It's a touring stage show that started in the UK. It was over there for like a good year before they decided to bring it out this way.
Imagine the Waterworld stunt show at Universal Studios, but with Batman.
And not as impressive.
No, not quite. It's super cheesy, but you know what? I had fun. I thought it was fun.
I just don't know who it was for. Because they go over every, like, the origin story of Batman, the origin story of Robin, and it's just kind of like, yeah, we know. Like, everyone there is, like, a big Batman fan. It's like, yes, we all know.
Yeah, if you know next to nothing about Batman, perhaps this show is for you. Yeah, and you're 7 years old.
Yes. If you have a 7-year-old who's starting to get into Batman, then this is the thing to take them to. But there was a lot of older people there, like our age, 20s and 30s, not with kids. And I feel like for that audience, it's we were lucky enough to see it for free. But if you were not so lucky, I can't imagine being a little bit resentful that you paid money for that. Yeah,
it was just bizarre with the circus acts and the Penguins Jazz Club. I mean, the Iceberg Lounge is very real in the comics, but there's a reason why we never see it like in the movies. Yeah, because it's waggity schwaggity do. Like, all right. But Batman didn't show up for.
There's more. It feels like it was more of a Robin origin story than a Batman origin story because they go through the whole parents getting killed, Batman taking him in, him wanting revenge, him turning into Robin. Whereas Batman, we saw briefly his parents die, and then he disappeared for a long time, and then finally shows up. But I was not as into it as I think you were. Maybe
I kind of knew ahead of time.
I wasn't expecting it to be great, but I was expecting kind of a Universal Studios type stunt show, and it wasn't even that elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, The Wire work was about as extravagant as it got.
Yeah. So, if you have kids, I would say, and you see that coming near you, I would say take them. Yeah. Because they'll probably enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. If I was 5 years old, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah. But if you're, like us, in your mid to late 20s or 30s, and you're like, this could be fun. Yeah.
If you can get a really cheap ticket.
Yeah, then go. But otherwise, I'd say avoid, probably.
I haven't had a chance yet to watch The Dark Knight Returns Part 1, but next week I will have my thoughts for you.
Yeah, I want to watch it, but I don't want to pay for it and I'm not going to torrent it. If someone lends me a copy of it, I will watch it. But I have not enjoyed the last few of those DC premiere things. So
yeah, the Superman one was kind of weak. What was it?
All-Star Superman.
No, one after that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh,
I've only seen the last two that I've seen. Year One, Batman Year One, and those were both underwhelming.
Well, here's hoping that this one kind of turns that around.
Yeah.
And with that, are we good?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think we're good.
Do you want any shout-outs?
No.
Okay. With that, that concludes this episode of the Court of Geeks. As always, you can find us on Facebook.com/Court of Geeks.
Oh, yeah, Twitter. We don't have a Twitter thing yet, but you can follow me at Mr. McCracken is my Twitter name. MisterMcCracken.
Did you get all that? We will be setting up our own Court of Geeks Twitter, and you can follow us on Facebook for now, and then we'll let you know when that's all set up. Also, if there's anything kind of comic-y related that you want us to talk about, or send it to us.
Feedback. We want feedback.
We want your feedback so bad. So, let us know. Hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter. Send a telegram, pigeon carrier, whatever you got to do. Get our attention. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. We'll see you guys next week.